How are you all? I want to congratulate you on the weekend of defiance that you have shown our government. Um, I intend to convey a means of capitalizing on that defiance here in this video. So what I want to talk about is how the separation of powers in a republic is that which separates from us from having a real republic and having a banana republic. I want to talk about how the COVID-19 laws are bullshit. They have always been bullshit. The first set were bullshit, the second set were bullshit, and this set is bullshit too. I want to talk about the procedure, what happens when the law is broken, how our state deals with such things. It's a very specific procedure. And I want to expose how, because the COVID-19 laws are bullshit, that actually our politicians have been interfering with the application of the law. Yeah. So Article 15.4 of the Constitution says that no law can be made that is repugnant to the Constitution. It says it there in black and white, clear as day. The various iterations of the COVID-19 laws have all been repugnant to the Constitution. All of them. Every one of them. And worse still, they knew they were repugnant to the Constitution. Because the people who were arrested relating to the COVID-19 laws during this whole lockdown, they were not arrested under COVID-19 laws. They were arrested under the Public Order Act. Because both the politicians and the higher up in the Gardaí knew that if people were brought to court under COVID-19 laws, any lawyer would be able to prove that the COVID-19 laws were repugnant to the Constitution. And that would be the end to the lockdown. So they didn't arrest people and they didn't charge people under COVID-19 laws. Because they knew that the second one of them went into court, any lawyer would be able to prove that they were unconstitutional, and that would be the end of the lockdown. And they didn't know how long the lockdown might go on. So they didn't arrest people and therefore under COVID-19 laws and therefore invite a constitutional challenge. Instead, they arrested people under the Public Order Act. They approached them based on COVID-19 laws, but they weren't arrested. They weren't arrested on COVID-19 laws, and they weren't charged with breach of COVID-19 laws. They were charged with breach of the Public Order Act, and that then prevented a constitutional challenge to the COVID-19 laws. So they knew that the laws that they were making were repugnant to the Constitution. And worse again was that they conspired, the executive branch of government conspired with the various politicians inside the executive branch of government to make laws over and over again, to change these laws, to update these laws over a period of a number of months. They conspired with each other to usurp Article 15.4 of our Constitution over and over again. And that's treason. Usurping the power of our Constitution is treason if I don't. If the executive branch of government does it over and over again, that's treason, buddies. That's treason. That's what the definition of treason is. They have an oath to uphold the Constitution, and they conspired to usurp Article 15.4. We have them, guys. We have to drive this home, and I'm hoping I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. The separation of powers is the most important aspect of republicanism because it regulates corruption in the republic. If a branch of the government, if a branch of the executive, if a branch of the powers of the state becomes corrupt, then the other branches can step in and remove that power from them or have them thrown out of their jobs. So what republicanism does is it divides the power of the state among different branches which remain independent of each other. So if one of the branches of government starts to become totalitarian, then it will naturally interfere on it needs the power of the other branches of government to enforce that totalitarianism. And once they try and usurp the power of the other branch of government, then the other branch of government can come in and say, hang on a second, you're interfering with my power. That's illegal. Stop. Or if they don't stop, then that other branch of government can sue them for prosecution, not for money. They can bring a prosecution against them and say this guy is trying to usurp the power of my branch of government, and that's the end of it. They lose their job. They're no longer in power. So the separation of powers of the branches of government in a republic is what stops the republic becoming corrupt. And it is exactly why our republic is so corrupt. It's because a politician can go to a Garda and say, you know what, that guy is a friend of mine, would you mind not arresting him? And the Garda say, oh Jesus, I will, all right, so Tom, I understand, no bother, yeah, I understand now, we won't arrest him. I tell you what we'll do, we'll faff around as though we are going to arrest him for a week or two, and then sure, look, they'll have it forgotten. And sure, it'll be all swept under the carpet then, you know. Or they can say, the government can go to the judges, well, the Gardaí, they were forced to arrest Michael for breach of the COVID-19 laws, but sure, you might find an old error there in the summons, or you might just say like that you don't think the prosecution is warranted, or that you accept the mitigation and that we won't be convicting this man, but don't do it again now, because you know. So this is what's wrong in our republic, is that the powers of government have no separation between them. And it was crystallized around a dinner table in Clifton after a golf event, where we had ministers, TDs, judiciary, media, all of the different aspects of power of our state were sitting around a table, usurping our laws, usurping our constitution, deciding our future. You can't let this pass Ireland. I don't think there has been an incident in history of the state that better crystallizes everything that is wrong in our country than what happened in Clifton that weekend. And still none of them arrested. And the reason none of them have been arrested is because they break our laws casually. They're so used to breaking our laws. They're so used to not being held accountable that they go out on a golf course in a public place and in breach of the laws. They don't care, because they know that one of the other branches of government will step in and say, no, look at it, come on, don't arrest Tommy, you know, do us a favour. So then you have two of the branches of government against one. So the politician will step in on behalf of the judge and stop the Gardaí prosecuting them. Or a politician will request a judge not prosecute a Garda. Or a senator is protected by a TD or a Garda. So they're using these connections. We live on a small island. They can't help but know each other. They know each other anyway. And we trust them to stay, to operate in a professional way and administer the goals of the state. But they're not doing it. They haven't been doing it forever, for decades. They continuously mix up the powers of all the different branches of government to get their way. This is exactly, if we can restore the separation of powers of government, then we can fix corruption in this country, you know. So the procedure when a law is broken is that the Gardaí go and arrest a person, and at the time of arrest the charge is decided. A Garda arrests a person based on a specific charge. In this instance it should be the breach of the COVID-19 legislation. Then the Garda takes the person prisoner and brings them into custody, identifies them clearly, prepares the summonses, maybe issue bail, let the person out, and send the summonses up to the member in charge of the station. Then the member in charge of the station takes those charges and sends them to the court. The court will respond then with a date to be set for appointment of a defence counsel and a plea to be entered. And depending what the plea is, either there will be a sentence issued or there will be a date set for hearing. So that's how lawbreakers are dealt with in the country. So in this instance, for some reason, people, for instance Derek Cleary, who has admitted he broke COVID-19 legislation, he hasn't been arrested. For some reason, the Gardaí haven't arrested him. And his admission of breach of the COVID-19 legislation actually incriminates everybody else that was there. So any Garda worth his salt should have gone out and arrested all 80 of those people. But so far it hasn't happened. So far there have been no charges issued. So far there have been no prosecutions brought. So far there have been no pleas entered in front of a court. So far there have been no judgments made. And that's because apparently now in our country, when you break the law, it's sufficient to resign from your position. So, like myself, I have trouble with the Public Order Act. So I'm thinking now what I might say to the judge the next day is that I've resigned my position as a welder, and I no longer wish to pursue that career as a welder. And then the judge will say, well, that's fair enough. You're not guilty. Because now it seems that if you resign your position, that's enough to find you not guilty of breaking the law. That's what Mr. Cleary is saying. He says, oh, well, I've resigned my job, so you don't need to prosecute me. What? Oh, how about if I issue an apology in the media, the complicit media? That's enough to avert a prosecution, is it? This is nuts. This is insane. This is what's wrong with our country. This is why our country is in the state of corruption that it's in. We keep tolerating this crap from our politicians and our media. Oh, well, he apologized, so he's no longer subject to the law. Oh, well, he resigned his position, so he's no longer subject to the law. This is raw mesh. This is absolute raw mesh. These 80 people have to be arrested, charged and prosecuted by the proper procedure. Or, I would like to remind those Gardaí that if you choose not to arrest those people, there is one place where all of the powers of the branches of government come together, and that's in the citizen. All of the powers of branches of government come together in one place. Me, the citizen, and you, the citizen, and all the other citizens. And if the Gardaí choose not to arrest Mr. Cleary and his cohort, then I and every other citizen in this country can arrest Mr. Cleary. And I and every other citizen in this country can charge Mr. Cleary. And I and every other citizen in this country can prosecute Mr. Cleary. And I and every other citizen in this country can arrest any judge who refuses to try Mr. Cleary. You might think that your corruption protects you, but you've given the game away in Golfgate, and we are going to capitalize. And if any politician interferes in that process, we will enter the Dáil. We will come for you.